Well, hello and welcome to a conversation on strategy and resources with David O'Neill, the founding head of school, and Pacifica Christian High School. Without further ado, let's hop right in. Let me share my screen, and we will get started. So I appreciate the time you've given me. I think it'll take us about 20 minutes to walk through this presentation. I'm going to talk about the school's growth over the last 8 years, our last strategic plan, our 3 founding goals that we're still in process of, and then I'll finish up with an overview of the school's strategic plan. So as we get going, as I always do, I start with the school's mission. Everything we do at Pacifica is filtered through this purpose, which is this. Pacifica Christian is a liberal arts high school devoted to teaching young men and women to think critically and wisely, instilling heartfelt joy and interest in learning, while encouraging lives of faith, character, and service to the glory of God. It's an incredibly important work, and we are thrilled to continue this work now going into our 8th year as a school. As we say back on campus, it begins with our purpose, but it comes to life in culture. It's born out of our practices and results in the Pacifica person. And I invite you to learn more about those things on our website if you want to go deeper into any of those areas. But for the rest of our time, we're going to talk about strategy and resources. So as we think about our future, I think it's important to see where we've come from. So the school founded back in 2015, at least officially, it was the first year we educated students. The initial plan that we had that guided our launch and then our growth was Pacifica 2019. Fortis Fundamentum, a strong foundation, which had 4 phases of launching the institution. And that did take us through and probably guided us through 2019, 2020, the same school year. As we all know, that's when the pandemic came in. At that time, we were positioning to launch the strategic planning process and pivoted towards really managing COVID, while alongside deepening and maturing the institution with growth was also while we were going through our Building a Home campaign, which I'll refer to momentarily. So much has happened since 2010, right? It's a really incredible story the last 12 years or so. There's so much to talk about, from starting the school with an initial gift of $10,000 to getting our lease to our founding families to opening the institution in the fall of 2015 and so forth. But I wanted to give you a visual narrative. So here's a couple of those founding families. There's probably, 15, maybe 20 families at the outset getting together in living rooms for years talking about these ideas. After we formally started a board and decided to move forward, we expanded those into other living rooms. And some of you might have been in those living rooms. These might be your living rooms we were in, your friends, and we're so grateful. 2015, here's a community gathering with Dr. David Winter, President Emeritus of Westmont College, dear friend, and his wife, Colleen. From there, now at our 2021 annual gala, we had over 400 guests, all parents, men and women, friends of the school, who came to support and celebrate the mission and work of Pacifica. And then just this year at our 8th annual dedication service, well over 1,000 people coming to dedicate the new school year and to ask God blessing on our work and students. It's always been about one student at a time from the very beginning. It's about focusing on whoever's with us right here in front of us right now. And as you maybe know or don't know, we hand seal with wax every acceptance package that's ever given out with this from the school. So when a student is accepted, they receive an acceptance package. It's personalized note, personal writing. It's then sealed by wax, and we pray over that student, and they're good over high school. It's a really beautiful thing, and then that is hand delivered to each student. That first year resulted in 48, 49 students. Here they are, incredible young people with courage and joy to take on the task of launching a new school. That first year in admissions, this is back in 2014, working in room 24. I love the fact that room 24 was a science lab, and now it's the freshman, or it's the Cove Learning Lounge, where freshmen come together each year to be welcomed and onboarded into the school. They're also, as you can see, they build friendships, they learn, they go deeper in their faith, and it's a place of belonging and being known. Really cool. We took our lease at 15th Street campus, which is where we started the school back in 2014. You can see it here, had a tiny tot gym. There was gymboree classes going on, yoga classes while we were trying to start a college prep school. Pretty incredible story. This is us in 2017, celebrating the generosity of our community with apple cider. that so many people came out to provide the funds necessary to purchase our building 1499, which is now our main campus. And this is the school celebrating that acquisition. Here's the first Friday on 15th Street campus, 300 plus students and staff doing life together, celebrating the beginning again of a new school year. And here's the first week of school. Students are moving between our two campuses, and the beautiful building there is the new main campus, provided by the generosity of the building a home campaign phase one. So many incredible folks and their generosity and their vision and their stewardship of this mission for our students. What a game changer for us. Now, here's another first day. It's the first day of classes for the school back in 2015. That's probably a third of the school right there on the landing, I think waiting for an English or history class. And then this is the first day of school here on 2022, New Triton Day. It's 300 folks, families, and students beginning their high school journey as we pray over them and welcome them into the Triton community. Our very first retreat started with, as again, 48, 49 students, our 4 beloved color teams. Look at the incredible growth. This is this year's retreat at Lost Canyon Young Life Camp up in Arizona. All those young men and women being formed and transformed by this work, this mission. It's God's blessing is incredible. Our very first fall production, these same students just a couple years later in Into the Woods. Most of these students have now graduated college or plan to graduate college this year. We have kids, some of these kids are now going off to graduate school. They're in work, they've started companies, they've been around the world. Really an incredible thing to watch their growth. Speaking of growth, this is the first volleyball team back in 2015. I think it's their first practice, all 9 of these girls coming out to build something. They had no idea that just a few years later, the home volleyball game would be filled with hundreds of fans under beautiful theatrical lights as we chant for the Tritons. A vision, right? Now, what we started in 2015 has continued. The most important things, the school's mission, its desire to teach young people to think and live in such a way that joy and goodness might follow them every day of their life, that Christ might be glorified both in their life and in the work of the school, that we might be able to prepare young people for lives of faithfulness in the marketplace, in the church, in the home, in the wider world. All of that is continuing. And I would say one thing that's changed is we've made it deeper. This is one discussion in 2015 to another discussion in 2022. It's the same text, the same ideas, the same meaningful discussion. Our students will sit through these discussions and learning of all different types for about 50,000 minutes. And yet at the end of that time, having completed that, the first question they're asked as freshmen is, what is the meaning of life? And the last question they're asked as a senior, the last senior discussion is, how then shall you live? Knowing what they believe in the world, about the world and God, and how they want to live in the world with their God as an important reality. And as we send them out on that final day of classes, their teachers come to them, they hand them a pen, and they speak these words to them. You now leave Pacifica on your own journey, given to you by God. Continue the great conversation wherever that journey leads you, and know that our Lord goes with you. Here's a picture of the class of 2021 signing the Harkness table. This table resides in the founder's room. If you had anything to do with the founding of this institution, this room is dedicated to you and your generosity in so many different ways to the school. And this table is an act of love around the generosity of so many. And so each student that goes to the school will sign this on their last day of school. It's a living artifact of the conversations, of the commitments, of the lives changed here at Pacifica. What started in 2015 with these students, we graduated 18 of them their senior year in 2018. We took it even further with their last walk, Triton's Trumpet, baccalaureate service, senior breakfast, which is now senior dinner, where faculty speak words of encouragement over them. Again, these signposts, these liturgies, if you will, of reminding them of God's goodness and faithfulness, their importance in the world, their fidelity to things that are true and good and beautiful, and how those can transform and form community. Well, that didn't stop there. We continued in 2020, even in the midst of a national or worldwide pandemic. Pacifica always strives to find a way to serve its mission and its students. 2022, just this year, you'll see that growth from 18 students to here. I think it's 45 students on our way to 90 graduates here in 2025. Tremendous growth, sending young people who have been taught to think and live well out into the world. And so as we look back, thanks be to God for all that he's done. Thanks to each of you and the important and critical role you play in our success. But let's think about the next steps, looking ahead. And we've titled this next season, The Hope Set Before Us. So I want to remind us, though, I think it takes about 10 to 15 years to fully establish Pacifica. And there's three founding goals that we've had really since the beginning that we think will ensure a strong foundation for Pacifica, not just to ensure that we're able to operate these first 15 years, but that, like all of us, we can be, all of us desires, we can be around for the next 100 years. Fidelity to our mission, to Christ's call in our lives, and to educating young people to think and live well. So what are those goals that I think take about 10 or 15 years? So I'm going to tell you about those three founding goals, and then thereafter, I'm going to introduce you to the next strategic map. As I said earlier, our first strategic map was Fortis Fundamentum, Pacifica 2019. The one I'm about to introduce to you is The Hope Set Before Us, Pacifica 2025. But first, the three founding goals. Let me talk about how these two things work together. So Pacifica's three founding goals provide a rigid focus for the school's long-term success. Rigid meaning they need to be achieved. The time frame is unclear, as it's highly dependent at this point on the timing of generosity and opportunities for financial investment. While our strategic maps, our 5-year iterations of strategy, provide a posture for continuous strategy making towards the school's ongoing innovation. Really mouthy word. So let's get to what does this really mean? When we think about innovation, we think about implementing changes that enhance value for the organization. But said it in more of a Pacifica way, or at least an educational way, implementing changes that enhance learning and student formation, right? Oftentimes when we think about innovation, we think of these huge, massive macro moves. I think those are important, and those are what I think our founding goals are in large part. But I think the things that really make an institution strong are consistent micro changes, ensuring that we're beholden to the mission of the institution. And so you're going to see some big steps that we want to take as an institution. We're patient in that. But most of these things are about making the right necessary changes and implementations to further enhance the school's mission, formation, and learning. So the three big goals that we're continually working towards outside of a strategic map are these: reach ideal enrollment, provide dedicated facilities, and achieve debt-free ownership of campus, which I call strategic ownership, and I'll explain that momentarily. So goal number one, reach ideal enrollment. When we started the school, we really looked at the best schools in the country, at least from our perspective, and we found that the vast majority of them were somewhere between 200 and 400 students. And so our goal has always been, depending on facilities and what made sense for us in an economy of scale situation, an enrollment somewhere between 300 and 400. I believe the ideal would be 360, and that's generally what myself and our board are working towards. Now, there's a few hurdles there. We have some parking constraints and other things, but as you can see, we've had steady and good growth. We've always been about the right growth, trying to find families who really value what we're doing and desire to be a part of the Pacifica, want to be a Triton. But if we continue with our current freshman enrollment, which is over 90, that times 4 is 360. And you can see in just 3 years how we could reach that number, assuming we deal with a couple constraints. But that's our goal. So goal number 2 is to provide dedicated facilities that enhance and support all aspects of the Pacifica program. Schools are people and ideas. And I think if you don't get those two things right, facilities don't matter. But when you have those two things right, as Pacifica does, alongside its culture, right, the way it interacts with students, its value for students and learning and formation, and then you add really high-end, beautiful facilities to that, you have an incredible school. And so we need to continue to expand our facilities. And so let's talk a little bit about where we are for next steps, right? We just finished the build out of main campus through phase 1 of the Building a Home campaign. The next phase is to purchase 15th Street campus. That's the campus with our gym and co-curriculars. The arts is next door. And then we need to remodel it and maximize that campus over time. So I don't actually know the purchase price. This is a best guess based on intelligence and thought. but somewhere between $5.5 and $7.5 million to purchase that building. It could be more, but that's generally where we think the range is. And then to remodel that space is probably somewhere between $6.5 and $10 million, again, depending on the scope. And there's a lot of different ways we could think about that, but we haven't really engaged architects in the city in that work yet. So those are cost per square foot guesstimates there. Now, the second part of this next step we do need to purchase or secure a long-term lease on a third property that increases student parking and potentially offers additional facilities. I have these labeled 1 and 2, but we're working on these simultaneously. And so as funds come in, we're prioritizing our investment based on the needs. But as I said, these goals, all of them need to come to fruition. So as a reminder, we completed phase 1. Thank you to everybody who participated in various ways to bringing that building into reality. And phase 2 is to purchase, own, and remodel and improve that space further to improve co-curriculars. We have so many plans and ideas around it. If you want to learn more, please reach out to me. Goal 3 is to achieve debt-free ownership for our facilities. A couple different reasons for this. As the slide says, eliminating the mortgage and lease burdens allows Pacifica to pour its resources directly into student programs, things that actually impact learning and student formation. Our faculty, we have, I think, the best faculty in the area without question. I want to retain them, and as change happens, because it does, I want to be able to attract folks who have a similar capacity and strength. And then from the very beginning, we've always desired to be a school for every neighborhood. And so financial aid has always been a core thing that we invest in and are committed to and always will at Pacifica. So as we have ownership, we can take monies that we're going towards those things and put it into things that really advance the mission and teaching students to think and live well. Second is when we think about goal number 2, I don't get to control the timing in which a building comes for sale and new lease opens up. These things are not something I control. And so how do I best control my ability to perform in those moments? Is I have freedom, I have liquidity, I have assets that I can put into play. When we want to buy 15th Street, which I don't control the timing, I want to be ready to move quickly and decisively in that moment. When the right parking lot or additional facility comes up, I want to have the ability to move quickly because those spaces, they come up very infrequently. And once they go off the market for 10 plus years. So I need the freedom to be able to move with authority in those spaces. So next steps is we need to raise the necessary funds towards our debt-free ownership of main campus. This is our strategic ownership fund. When we bought the building, we probably took on about $3-4 million in debt. And then when we built out the building, unfortunately, during COVID, costs increased, and we both had increase of costs, and so our came a little bit less under on our fundraising goals. And so when it's all said and done, all our pledges are in, all the loans convert. We're anticipating a range of $5.5 to $6 million in debt that the school's carrying on that project, and that is all the school's debt to date. And I think that's about as much as we can handle. Back to if we wanted to buy another building, we need liquidity, opportunity, and cash. But long term, I'd like to remove that mortgage burden, and as well, any debt taken in the acquisition. This is point 2 to remodel 15th Street campus, or the necessary funds. Any debt that was taken in the acquisition or remodel of 15th Street, we need to raise to pay that off as well. Again, when we have complete ownership of our buildings, it's also where we keep our price point in a place where we think it actually aligns with both our market, but our mission families, right? We don't want to price out families that are mission fit families in our mission in the school. And so trying to pay down these resources so that we can keep a price point that allows the school to be filled with families who really value what we're doing is incredibly important to me and to our board. So to achieve these 3 founding goals on the low range, we're looking at about $17.5 million in investment. And on the high range, we're looking at $23.5 million in investment. And honestly, at this point, we're sort of positioned and poised to move as quickly as possible through this as investments come in. So we'll be patient with the Lord, trust in the Lord's timing and all these things. He's been incredibly generous through so many of you. And so we trust in that moving forward, but that's the need. So the first part is these 3 founding goals. And the second part are strategic maps that provide a posture for continuous strategy making towards the school's ongoing innovation. So that light blue area is our 3 founding goals. And then that brownish, muted brownish area is our next strategic map for the hope set before us, Pacifica 2025. And so let me introduce that to you. All right. Our vision is over the next 4 years, Pacifica will continue the critically important work of teaching young people to think and live well. And I don't know that our mission's ever been more critical than it is right now. Through the culmination of our 10th year, which we will throw a big party, my friends, of teaching and learning, we desire to mature into one of the premier schools of our kind and size, strengthening and enhancing all aspects of the Pacifica program through the thoughtful allocation of resources towards the continual advancement of our people and programs. And this is that positioning to allow for ideation and innovation over time in the context of reality in the moment is really important. So our goal is to solidify Pacifica as an intellectual and spiritual home for generations of young people, while also engaging our broader community in conversations on human flourishing. Pacifica isn't just for its students, it's for its families, it's for its friends, it's for our wider community, and look to see us doing more and more in the education and spiritual encouragement of all of those constituents. So here we are, Pacifica 2025. I'm going to give you a very high overview of it. Again, I'm telling you, basically, I'm giving you the canvas in which our team is painting in. And so the plan is organized around 5 pillars, and Pacifica's strategic vision around these pillars, we hope to enhance all aspects of the program. So we've got the one vision, which I just shared with you, 5 pillars, which I'm about to share with you. And each of those pillars has corresponding goals, right? So pillar 1 has 3 goals, and they're titled 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And it'll make more sense here momentarily. 16 goals in all. Each of those goals has corresponding initiatives. Those initiatives are created by all the many stakeholders in our school, right? And so we have ideation meetings and stakeholder meetings around each goal. And then the goal leads, right? So I lead a goal, I lead several goals. Chris Stratton leads several goals, Dr. Robertson, Mrs. Hernandez. Anyways, we all have different goal ownership, and then our constituents help create initiatives over time, which allows these initiatives to get into the budget, into strategic plans, so that resource allocation can exist, right? So again, this is about being able to make micro changes and macro changes in real time to advance learning, rather than having to set to some large 5, 10 sort of rigid strategic plan. This gives all of us the flexibility to advance the institution as we see fit. So you'll have various initiatives. The initiatives are labeled here as letters for each of the 3 goals under pillar 1. And this is a little, maybe too much information, but it's a posture of strategy making. So some goals might take 4 years, some might take 2 months, right? And as they come off and on, we're constantly looking at what resources are required for those, how to reallocate those same resources towards the next initiative. And so this happens internally through our Board of Trustees, our officers meetings, our deans and directors, department meetings, student learning teams. All of these teams are reviewing these things and advancing them. So what are the 5 pillars? The first one is learning for all of life. The 3 goals here, and I'll be sending it on email. You also be getting this in the mail, most of you. So I invite you to read the whole plan there. But learning for all of life is just what it is. We want to educate young people to think and live in such a way that they become lifelong learners in the marketplace, in the home, in the church, and beyond. First and foremost, we want to be in a league of our own. And we think that we are, both in our curriculum, our pedagogy, our hiring. We really believe that we're unique in this and set apart, but we want to go further, right? And so this goal is set up about how do we do that even better. Academic success. If a student is accepted in the school, they should find success at the school. And so how do we find holistic success for all students? This isn't just picking a segment of the school, but having every student find greater success as a triton. And then how shall you live? All of these things that we do at the high school level is so that the next 60 years of their life, from 18 on, have a great effect, both in who they are, their relationship with God, and their relationship with the world. How do they take what they've been given and employ it into the world as an act of service and love? How do we orient them, help them see that? And then second, once they leave, how do we invite them back in? Those who want to stay in a cohort of students here as 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds and have this community be one that is helping shape, inform, and encourage them, how can we do that better and better? I'm not going to spend any time on these initiatives here. I'm going to, forgive me, I should have cut these slides out. You can read through those when I send them out. Community of formation is pillar 2. So the 3 goals under community of formation is ownership and opportunity, the first year in adulthood, and then student well-being. Ownership and opportunity is expanding the breadth and type of opportunities available to students and ensuring that they have ownership of these things. This is how we teach kids to grow up, how we teach them leadership. And so what we're doing here is we're refining things that we already have, like we're re-envisioning all school meeting, we're re-envisioning our guest speaker programs, we're re-envisioning our advisory programs, but we're also strengthening things with creating new opportunities for leadership and character development and spiritual growth. And so look for this. This is really a action-oriented goal around the ongoing growth between 280 and 360, right? The first year in adulthood, the first year is really focusing on how do we transition students well into this school. High school is a big change, but also reading our books and engaging in our discussions. How do we train them well for this? Put scaffolding around that, introduce them to the continuum and the unique aspects of our culture. And this is how we create a place that's second to none, is you focus on culture. You do that with bringing in and onboarding new families and new students really well. So we're going to refocus on that. The second is adulthood. We have the most formative 4 years for a young person's life. And so how do we also prepare them for adulthood? And so finding these liturgical or cultural moments throughout the years that sort of helps them stand up taller, get a bigger vision for the world in front of them and how they might live in it. But we need to be really intentional. And so we'll look for more intentional ways in which we're inviting young people into adulthood, into a Christian adulthood. And then finally, under community of formation is student well-being. It's no surprise that students are struggling holistically in so many different ways. And Pacifica already has many ways in which we help young people find well-being and balance and joy. We need to do even better. And so we're reviewing all of those things and implementing processes and changes and additions to our program to promote human student well-being and human flourishing. Third pillar is our people. And so our people has 3 goals. A robust team. This is all about everybody who's employed with the school. Number 2, a community of learners. This is everybody who comes in as a student. And number 3, from all neighborhoods. So a robust team. If we don't hire well, Pacifica will not be a great school. A robust team, you should see this on every strategic map you ever get from us. Back to the micro changes. We've been making micro changes on this particular goal since we started. And this micro change has the biggest impact. And so how we go about attracting, hiring, onboarding, retaining top talent is of utmost importance. And we've got to continue to focus on that if we want to be a school that is worthy of the aspirations that we have, right? And so I think this is always one of the most important goals of any strategic plan, always. Second is the community of learners. We want more Tritons who want to be here, who understand our unique differences, or not differences, our unique values as an institution, the things that we think are good, and that they want to be a part of that. Obviously, at 13, some of these things are foreign to them. But how do we better attract more and more students who want to be here, who want this sort of mission, that want to be known, who want to grow in their faith, who want to be educated well? We need to continue to look at that. Micro changes in this area can have a massive impact on culture and the school's flourishing. And then from all neighborhoods, again, we desire to be a school that's representative of every community around our area. And there's many ways you do this, but one of them is investing in financial aid so that we have every socioeconomic sort of family with us. In the 50s, you had the CEO and the vice president, middle management, line worker, and support staff all living in the same neighborhood. They shopped at the same grocery store. They played on the same soccer team. That's no longer the case. We have to work harder to keep all of us together, doing life together, seeing each other, knowing each other, being for each other. It's an important aspect of the school. Pillar number 4 is advancing our mission. We have 4 goals. It's the only pillar that has 4 goals. The first one is to continue to cultivate a vibrant philanthropy. Pacifica raises, we've had to raise significant money every year. And in part, that's because we didn't start with 25 million or 30 million or 50 million or 70 million, which is the numbers that were initially given to pretty much every school that started in our area in the last 20 years. We started with $10,000 and a belief that we had a vision that could transform young people and the courage to take the next step. Along the way, so many of you have given generously. In fact, I think it's almost 60% of funds raised have come from people who will never have a grandkid or do not have a grandkid or child at the school. That's an incredible thing. Pacifica is founded by Orange County for our community, and I'm so grateful for that. But you got to keep working on it. The Pacifica Endowment, which is funds used primarily for financial aid, but also faculty and other things. And this is really about funding long-term goal number 3, or pillar number 3. I'll talk about that in a second. We are the Tritons, and this is a unified brand and messaging, saying that the whole of the Pacifica experience is what is forming a person to think and live well. And how do we do that better? That embeddedness, the same idea of the liberal arts, we need to do this in the way in which we talk about ourselves and think about ourselves and so forth. And then attractive facilities is tied into the 3 overarching goals that we talked about here at the very beginning. So the Pacific Endowment, which is pillar 4, goal 2, here's initiative 1, to establish and meaningfully fund the Pacific Endowment in order to serve current and future generations in support of the Pacifica mission and ministry. Really important. A few initial key objectives that we're currently working on is to establish the endowment with guiding principles and policies for long-term management of the fund, such as creating and implementing an investment policy, creating and implement a gift acceptance policy, securing founding gifts, and so on. So the ultimate goal for this would be $20 million. We think over time, this is a reasonable goal. We know it's going to take time, and we don't know how much, but we'll be patient. But we know we need to start because to achieve the goals we want to achieve as an institution, this has to be a priority. And if we really want to be a city on the hill, then we really should be a place that seeks the ability that any student can come here regardless of financial capacities. So some exciting advancements. We received our first gift this year of $500,000. We received then a second gift of $100,000, and there's already a third gift pledge for $100,000, which totals $700,000. And the board has a commitment right now to raise an additional $500,000, which is matching the gifts aforementioned. So an exciting launch to the institution, $700,000 with an additional $500,000 we're seeking in the short run. This is of interest to you, or plain giving or estate giving is of interest, or if Pacifica is already in your estate, we'll love to chat with you or have that information shared with us. Thank you for considering that. And then our fifth pillar is leading our mission. This is all about the leadership to ensure that these ideas, our fidelity to our mission, to Christ and his church, and to teaching students to think and live well is consistent over time. And when I mean time, I mean 100 years plus. How do we do that? To focus on faithful leadership, this is all about our Board of Trustees and its committees. The second is the Pacifica Circle. This is all the internal things that the head of schools office manages throughout our entire organization to ensure that what the board's objectives and commitments are match what the school's objectives and commitments are, and that all of us have the tension to have fidelity to the school's mission and founding purpose, because this is what we communicate to our families and they expect of us. And then lastly, it's being good stewards. We've been given a great gift, both of ideas and vision for young people, but also resources from so many of you. And we have to steward all of these things well. And so this last goal is the ongoing stewardship of the things in which God has entrusted us with. And I mean this holistically: ideas, vision, people's children, their resources that have been given to them by God. We've got to be faithful stewards of all of these things. So how are we going to communicate our process of ongoing innovation and progress? Well, we've been doing this all along. Every year we put out a year-end briefing, which outlines the school's growth and trajectory. We'll reformat these, and we'll reformat them now under the organization of Pacifica 2025 and its goals. And we'll present to you every year what steps we took in innovating on the mission, again, which I mean by adding value to students in their learning and formation. So this is the hope set before us. Where did that come from? Well, it comes from the scriptures, comes out of Hebrews. And I don't want to be misunderstood as trying to force a text into a plan. So let me just read the text and then give you a short conversation around it. For when God made a promise to Abraham, since he had no one greater by whom to swear, he swore by himself, saying, surely I will bless you and multiply you. And thus Abraham, having patiently waited, obtained the promise. For people swear by something greater than themselves, and in all their disputes, an oath is final for confirmation. So when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things, in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have a strong encouragement to hold fast the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain, where Jesus is gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. So when we talk about the hope set before us and we talk about stewardship, I think that's it, is we've been given a great gift. And God has called us to take that great gift and to give it to others. And I think when I think about Pacifica, at our very best, Pacifica is an offering of love to our community, seeking to help young people think and live well as we educate them well for the complexities of the modern world, the 21st century, and help them to live in fidelity and in joy with God himself, with a relationship with Christ and his church, and to send them out into the world for lives of faithfulness in the marketplace, the church, their homes, in the wider world. And so that's the hope that we have. When we do this good work, we extend this hope, this love, this offering into our community through Pacifica Christian High School. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Let me end with this prayer from a student that was written on the floor of our building at main campus back in 2019. Her prayer at the time it was written starts with Pacifica, past, present, and future. We are both the present of Pacifica and its future. Thank you, and I love you. Let us pray. Abba, thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for your faithfulness. You are our Alpha and Omega. Bless this building. Let this be a place where your love is felt. May these walls contain moments that glorify you. May this floor be a firm foundation of truth and goodness and beauty. But even more important than this building, bless this family. Bless the tears that will be shed here, the laughs that will resound through these halls, the meals that will be shared, and the truths that will be revealed. May this family reflect your love. May these people be salt of the earth. May this place be a city on a hill. May you always be our vision, O Lord of our hearts. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for your faithfulness. You are our Alpha and Omega. Amen. Hey, God bless you. Thanks for joining me. And I look forward to the next time that we are all together. Until then, my friends, the Lord be with you.